She stopped responding, without warning, without a fight, without a last sentence that justified the silence. You look at your cell phone, see the phantom notification, and feel like something has died, not outside, but inside. You try to stay calm, tell yourself it's no big deal, that maybe she's busy. But the minutes turn into hours, the hours turn into days, and the silence, it starts to scream. It is in this abyss that man gets lost. You find yourself reviewing old conversations, trying to find some clue. You mentally replay every moment, every gesture, every word. The mind transforms each memory into a sentence. This is where you went wrong. This is where she lost interest. This is where you became disposable. You've been there. The pain of being ignored is not physical, but it paralyzes. It doesn't bleed, but it drowns. She didn't say she was leaving, and that's exactly what destroys you. Disdain is more violent than hate, because hate still recognizes your existence. But silence, it nullifies you. It turns your presence into a burden, your existence into a nuisance. And the worst part, you start to believe it. You start to demean yourself, to look for reasons to deserve to be seen, to force conversations, send unanswered highs, create stories in your head to justify the abandonment. And suddenly, a man who thought he was strong becomes an emotional beggar, begging for crumbs of attention, hoping that a late-night like means something, that a viewed story is a sign of longing, that the silence is just a phase, but it's not. It's a test, it's a war, and you're losing. Epictetus warned, "It is not contempt that destroys you. It is the illusion that you need to be loved by those who despise you." You were programmed to please, and that's exactly why you suffer, because someone you wanted close decided that your absence is lighter than your presence. And now? Now you bleed, not on the outside, but on the inside. There where the ego begs for validation, there where loneliness has a name, a face, and a last seen last at 11:58 p.m. This silent pain is more common than you think. It has already destroyed men much stronger than you, men who knelt before a scene and not answered, men who traded their peace for hope, men who were enslaved by female attention like an addict by their drug. And if you don't understand what's happening, you will continue to fuel this cycle. You will continue to be ignored and react exactly as she expects. But what if I told you there are 7 steps, 7 clean cuts, 7 stoic swords capable of killing the old you, the one who begs, the one who waits, the one who crawls. Seneca wrote for men like you, men in ruins, men who lost everything except themselves. And even then, they forgot who they are. So listen. But listen with your soul, Because from now on, each word will be a cut, each step a reconstruction. Are you ready to break the silence? Because this script is not a consolation, it's a call. And the first step is to accept she won't answer. But you can choose what to do with this silence. You're still there, trapped in an invisible cell built by expectations. There are no chains, there are no bars. But there's something worse, the feeling that you need to prove your worth to be seen. She didn't answer, and deep down you still hope she will. Even after ignoring your messages, even after disappearing, even after treating your presence as a disposable nuisance. And that's where the real male collapse begins. You don't just miss her. You feel ashamed for caring so much about someone who didn't lift a finger for you. Ashamed of losing control, ashamed of still looking at your cell phone, waiting for the return of someone who has already left inside. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this and you will find strength." But you traded that power for the illusion of reciprocity, and now you are trapped in the cruelest trap a man can fall into, the trap of emotionally depending on a woman's reaction. Rejection doesn't hurt because she left. It hurts because you gave her the power to confirm what you fear most, that you are not enough. First step, don't chase. It is at this moment that most get lost. She walks away and you run. She silences, and you scream. She ignores, and you insist. You try to reconnect, bring up the subject, be understanding. But all you're doing is begging for crumbs. And when a man begs, He dissolves before the female gaze. She doesn't need to answer you anymore. She already won. Her silence has become an invisible leash around your neck. And the more you struggle, the more you prove you're trapped. Epictetus whispers from the past, if something doesn't depend on you, it shouldn't control you. But you don't listen. You respond to stories, send indirect messages, review conversations as if old words could resurrect interest. You lost the war the moment you showed desperation. Second step, control your emotions. Pain is not the problem. The problem is what you do with it. You feel your heart race, your stomach churn, your mind spin in a spiral. You want answers. You want justice. You want redemption. But there is no court for dead affections. There is no judge who forces someone to want you. And in this vacuum of meaning, you act. You write another message. You create another text, trying to explain yourself. You post something that she will see, and you sink. Because each emotional gesture makes you smaller. Each impulse brings you closer to collapse. Imagine the scene now. You lying down late at night, the dark room, the light of the cell phone on your face, last seen, online 2 minutes ago. But not for you. This mental scene corrodes you. And the more emotion, the less clarity. The more neediness, the less dignity. Seneca would say, the man who is dominated by emotion is a slave, even if he doesn't see the chains. Anger won't bring her back. Sadness will not reverse the contempt. Anxiety will not fabricate reciprocity. You need to feel without drowning, cry without crawling, hurt without destroying yourself. Third step, interrupt the mental narratives. Abandonment creates a void, and the void creates stories. She's with someone else. It was because I said that. She never loved me. But these voices are not truths. They are desperate constructions of your mind, trying to make sense of the pain. You start fighting ghosts. You react to assumptions. You become obsessed with signs that don't exist. And each new thought turns into a stab. You feed the torture, believing you are seeking answers. But the truth is simpler and crueler. She chose to walk away. And that's all you really know. The rest is invention. And every time you respond to an invented story, you give more power to the one who has already left. Epictetus said, it is not what happens, but what we think about what happens that destroys us. You can't prevent her from leaving, but you can refuse to build mental temples around the absence. Silence is silence. Don't project, don't analyze, don't romanticize. Accept what is real and bury what is invention. Only then does the poison stop circulating. Fourth step, value yourself without asking for permission. Contempt doesn't just destroy your pride, it affects your perception of value. When someone ignores you, your brain begins to associate absence with guilt, and guilt with inadequacy. You start to think that if she walked away, it's because you weren't enough, not pretty enough, not interesting enough, not masculine enough. And that's exactly where the cycle of self-annihilation begins. You try to transform yourself into what she would like. You erase parts of yourself. You shape gestures. You refine phrases. And in the end, it's no longer you. It's just an anxious reflection of her desire. A cracked mirror that tries to please and never succeeds. You've seen this man. The one who destroys himself trying to be seen. Who loses his tone of voice, the way he walks, the direction of his own life, all for a woman who doesn't even answer hi. Her silence has become the compass of your identity, and you're going straight to the bottom. But listen to what Seneca would shout if he were in front of you now. The greatest disgrace is believing that value is outside of oneself. Value is not asked for. Value is imposed by the simple fact of not demeaning yourself. You don't need her to see you as a man. You need to stop acting like a boy. And do you know what is the first attitude of a man who values himself? He doesn't tolerate being treated as an option. You don't beg for presents. You observe. And when you realize that there is no reciprocity, you walk away. Not for revenge, but for respect for yourself. Imagine the scene now. She posts a story with another guy. You feel a punch in the stomach. Your impulse? Send an indirect message. Show that you are fine. Demonstrate that you also move on with life, but stop, breathe, and remember, you are not in an attention dispute. You are in an internal battle for your identity. Don't respond to contempt with exhibitionism. Respond with firm silence, with solid presence, with a life that doesn't need to prove anything to exist. Fifth step, give space and watch who comes back. Your instinct will tell you to act, to search, to insist, to explain. But wisdom at this moment is doing the opposite. It's disappearing, not as a game, but as an affirmation. If she walked away, give space. Space for her to think, space for her to feel your absence, space for her decision to become clear, and for your dignity to remain intact. The man who respects the space of the other respects himself. And paradoxically, the more you walk away firmly, the more you increase the value of your presence. Distance is not rejection. It's a filter. And every filter reveals. It reveals who comes back and who was never really there. Be careful with the trap of wanting to fill every void with messages, every silence with justifications, every absence with proof of your worth. You don't need to prove anything. If she misses you, she comes back. If she doesn't, you got rid of an emotional prison before it became perpetual. Epictetus teaches, do not seek that things happen as you want, but want them to happen as they happen. This is true freedom. Don't force, don't beg, don't manipulate. Just observe, with clarity, with firmness, with peace. You don't need pretty words, you need consistent actions. And the most powerful of them is to give space and not run back when someone steps on that space as if it were land without an owner. You are sacred territory. If she doesn't treat it that way, she doesn't deserve to be there. Sixth step, keep the focus on you. There comes a time when everything in you revolves around her. Your mood, your appetite, your motivation. You no longer live your life. You live a waiting for a sign, for an answer, for a validation that says you still matter. And while she lives, you freeze. You are paralyzed by an absence, as if the world had lost its axis because someone decided that you are no longer a priority. But this is not love, it's dependence. It is the most destructive addiction a man can carry. The addiction of abandoning oneself to try to be accepted. You neglect training. You leave projects unfinished. You avoid friends. You move your energy away from what builds and give everything to what destroys you. You empty yourself trying to be remembered. But Epictetus would not let you forget. You are your only legitimate domain. Everything that is not you can be taken from you. People, attention, affection. But your mind, your discipline, your focus, that only you can abandon. And if you do that for someone, you've already lost, even before she said anything. Reconstruction begins when you stop looking outside and start adjusting what's inside. You wake up, get up, and even bleeding. Do what needs to be done. You're not okay. Train anyway. No appetite? Eat right anyway. With a weak mind? Study anyway. Missing her? Work twice as hard. Each act of discipline in the midst of pain is a brick in the wall of your dignity. You don't need to pretend you're over it. You just need not sink. Life doesn't stop for you to heal, and perhaps it is precisely in the movement that healing comes. Seventh step, become indifferent. You still feel. But you need to stop reacting, because what destroys you is not the pain. It is the attachment to the hope that she will return, realize, apologize, confess that she was wrong. She won't. And the more you wait, the more you distance yourself from your own freedom. Stoic indifference is not coldness, it's lucidity. It is the courage to say, yes, I feel, but that won't control me. Marcus Aurelius endured irreparable losses, and yet he wrote, the things that disturb us are not the things themselves, but the opinion we have about them. If you think her absence is a condemnation, then you will live as a prisoner. But if you see this absence as a necessary cut, a divine redirection, then you begin to free yourself. Being indifferent is not ignoring the pain. It's not kneeling before it. You don't answer. You don't insist. You don't take revenge. You silence. And not as someone who waits, but as someone who accepts. Because now you understand. She was never the problem. The problem was you handing over the key to your peace into the hands of someone who didn't know what to do with it. So you take it back and never give it away again. From here on, everything changes, not because she came back, but because you came back. You came back to be yours. You came back to the axis. You came back to life. And her? She just became the portal through which you needed to pass to find what you had forgotten, your inner power. The silence didn't destroy you. You are the one who stopped responding to yourself. And now, finally, you listened again. You survived. But it's not the same. You no longer feel the urge to send any message. You no longer seek meaning in the subtext of silence. You no longer need to look in the mirror and beg for explanations. You didn't turn to stone. You turned to steel. And steel only forms in the most intense fire. That seen last stopped hurting, because now you understand that her absence was the medicine your soul needed to get out of the trance. It was you who was missing. It was you who had disappeared from yourself. The love you felt was real, but it was misdirected. You offered it as an offering to an altar that was already empty, waiting for a return from someone who had already left, waiting for compassion from someone who no longer had a connection. And now you look at all this with different eyes, without rancor, but with clarity. You didn't need her. You needed the mirror that rejection offered you. A mirror where you finally saw the fragile man you had become and who needed to die. Pain was not an enemy. It was the warning. You built your identity around female attention. And when that attention ceased, everything collapsed. But what collapses reveals what was poorly supported. And now you understand. The silence that hurt you was the same that gave you back. Each non-response was a call to your independence. Each indifference was a lesson in power. Epictetus would conclude like this: freedom is the power not to depend on the unpredictable, and someone's attention is the most unpredictable element that exists. You won't beg anymore, you won't adjust, you won't bow, you won't get addicted, because dignity, once rescued, no longer accepts being sold for crumbs. You walk now with another weight on your chest, not that of neediness, but that of consciousness. You understand that in the end, true self-love is born when you accept losing everything, including the approval of the one you most desired, because it is in this loss that the most important presence returns, yours. And finally, a question. If you are capable of being reborn from the pain of being ignored, what else is stopping you from living as a complete man? Maybe nothing. Maybe it's just you now, breathing the weight of lucidity and choosing for the first time. Not chasing, not asking, not begging, not absenting yourself. Were you rejected? It doesn't matter anymore, because today, who chooses is you. Who respects himself, then is you. Who walks is you, and if she ever comes back, she won't find the same man, because what bled died, and in its place there was only your true face, solid, serene, sufficient. Like, if you came back, comment if you are still on the way, and share with those who crawl for an affection that will never come, and need to remember that dignity is not asked for. Protect yourself.